Happy holidays. Let's hand out ADP gifts up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Saturday, December 21st. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers, and we are giving you ADP gifts, ADP presents, undervalued players right now in NFBC ADP, and we will start with the top 100. Chris, who do you have?
So I do want to do an honorable mention to Marcus Semien, who Scott talked about on the full episode of the podcast. You should check that out. Fantasy Baseball Today. He's super undervalued, but I'm going to go with Brent Rooker. And this kind of brings together two theories that I'm working on this offseason that will apply for the 2025 season. I think both players who don't steal a lot of bases and UT-only players are specifically being undervalued right now. I think speed is easier to find than it ever has been. I think we're maybe overvaluing the early round guys who do steal bases. But with Brent Rooker specifically, he actually stole 11 bases last year. So he might not be a zero there. And he was a top 10 player in 2024. His ADP right now is 74.4 in the month of December. I get being skeptical of what he did last year. I get the strikeout rate was still 29%. That's still very high. There's a lot of variance there. The bottom could fall out. I think even if he returns to being a 2023 level player, there's still a lot to like about what Brent Rooker is going to bring to the table. And the point about UT-only players being undervalued is there's Shohei Ohtani, there's Brent Rooker, there's Kyle Schwarber, there's Marcell Ozuna, there's a couple other lower end guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Cal Manzardo, who I think are quality starting caliber players when they're healthy, especially that you look at it in a 12-team league, half the league might be starting a UTIL-only player in their UT spot. So I get the concern about the lack of flexibility and how that can impact your team building. Except Brent Rooker might play outfield pretty regularly in 2025. He missed a lot of time, or he didn't miss time last year, but he stopped playing the outfield around the end of May, dealing with a forearm injury. He had surgery on it. He put up those numbers while playing through that forearm injury, but they've already said they expect him to play more outfield this season. So I think there's a chance we're talking about Brent Rooker 3 weeks into the season having outfield eligibility, and all of a sudden you're concerned about, your lack of flexibility. That's out the window. Brent Rooker could be an outfielder who might have deserved to be going 40 spots ahead of where he's being drafted. I think you can legitimately make the case. I have him ranked about 20 spots higher than his ADP, and even that I feel like is being conservative.
I'm right there with you with the undervalued utility-only players because mine is Marcell Ozuna, whose ADP is 69.8. He has finished as a top 30 overall player in Roto and a top 30 hitter in head-to-head points 2 years in a row. In that span, 39-plus homers, 100-plus RBI, 900-plus OPS in each of those seasons. Quality of contact was elite. Expected stats back everything up. I understand that he has had lots of inconsistency in his career. He's turning 34 years old, but a player that's been that good 2 years in a row that's going this late, anytime I see him outside the top 50, top 60, and he's available, I'm pretty much going to jump on Marcell.
The concerns are baked into that price already, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's move into the 101 to 200 range, Chris, another undervalued player.
I think Sandy Alcantara is being weirdly forgotten. I know, he missed all last season recovering from Tommy John surgery, so he was a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and then he wasn't very good in 2023, although he was still a must-start pitcher in 2023, especially in the second half. He had an inflated ERA in the first half of the season, but in the second half, it was more like 3.10, which is what you're looking for from him. I think the problem is you're not expecting the 220 innings that you got from him in 2022, probably not the 200 plus that you got in 2023. And we know he's not an elite strikeout guy. So you're getting held back a little bit there when you draft Sandy Alcantara, but at 161st overall, when you're talking about like the guys being drafted around him, Reynaldo Lopez, Robbie Ryan, Ryan Pepiot, okay, more strikeouts per inning than Sandy Alcantara, sure, but do you think any of those guys are good bets for 140 innings? I don't really think so. I think Sandy Alcantara, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to get to 180. I don't think the Marlins are going to limit him. So I think he's a really, really nice rotation filler at this discounted price for Sandy Alcantara.
On the full-length podcast, I gave out Tommy Edman as my undervalued player in this range. I do like him. The ADP is 190. I'm going to steal Scott's player and talk about Bo Bichette because
this one's pretty obvious.
His ADP is 144.5. His ADP last year was 37.6. So he has dropped over 100 spots year over year. And don't get me wrong, he was awful. He hit 225. He only had 4 home runs, a 598 OPS. That is truly awful. Entering last season, he was a career 299 hitter, 826 OPS. He's entering a contract year. He's 27 years old. I don't believe that he just forgot how to play baseball, right? So I don't think he gets back to this elite level player, but a good batting average, 280, 20 to 25 home runs, 8 to 10 steals, batting in the middle of that lineup, and a contract year. I do think that matters because players in contract years tend to stay healthy, and they do run a little bit more in contract years. So yeah, I do see a pretty big bounce back and some profit here from Bo Bichette. Chris, back to you, 201 to 300, an undervalued player.
Yeah, let's go with a guy who fell even further than Bo Bichette last year. Evan Carter, whose ADP is 278.4. Last year it was around 115. And look, like Bo Bichette, he had a very bad 2024 season. And unlike Bo Bichette, Evan Carter does not have the 5 years of high-level production before last season. He had 38 good games or whatever it was in 2023, if you include the playoffs. So like there's a lot more reason to be skeptical about Evan Carter, but actually the profile might not be that different for these two guys. Evan Carter might be a little more of an on-base guy than a batting average guy, but the fully figured out version of Evan Carter could hit 20 homers, could steal 20 plus bases, could score a ton of runs at the top of what I think will be a better Rangers lineup if he's healthy. And I'll take the discount. You know, still, I know he dealt with a back injury last year. I don't know how concerned we should be, but at 278, I just don't care. The downside has been totally priced in at that point. I don't think the upside has been accounted for Evan Carter.
For me, it's going to be Spencer Arrighetti. 219.4 is the ADP. Full season statistics are more predictive than partial season statistics, but young players can also get better. They can make progress. And that's what we saw from Arrighetti over his last 15 starts, 3.31 ERA, 1.18 whip, 11 K per 9, 3 walks per 9, and a 12.9% swinging strike rate. He has 3 pitches with a whiff rate over 37%. He's got a nasty curveball. He's got a nasty sweeper. He's on a good team. There should be run support. I trust the Astros in terms of their pitching development. They did a great job with Kikuchi when he got traded there. They
saw Hunter Brown turn it around in a big way last year.
And we just saw Arrighetti get better in the second half. So I don't know if he'll necessarily be this good, but I do think, they're continuing to find progress with Arrighetti, and I think the stuff is real. So, at 219.4, I think that is a great bet to make on Spencer Arrighetti. All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.